Welcome everyone to Dead Talk Live. I'm your host Viz. Our guests tonight are writer-director Anthony DiBlasi and star Jessica Sula from Malum, which is now streaming on all major on-demand platforms. I want to thank you both for being our guests and congratulations on this film. I really look forward to breaking it down in the next 15-20 minutes with the both of you. Now, I want to start with Anthony. Anthony, it is rare that a film is rebooted, reimagined by the original filmmaker. Now, the original film that we're talking about is Last Shift from 2014. So tell us what inspired you to retell your own story.
Well, Cecil B. DeMille did it with the Ten Commandments, so I just wanted to
Oh
follow
yeah,
on that track.
and
Uh,
that's what you need to know. He
as
just
far
wants
as the
Cecil B.
American, yeah, Cecil. As far as American directors, right? I know it happens a lot with international
Mm-hmm.
films because they make a great movie like Funny Games and like let's bring it to the States. But for me, when we did the original one, I was really happy with that film. We did it at a very limited budget, but it was very precise in what we wanted to do. And my co-writer on that, Scott Boyley, and we talked about maybe doing. He wanted to do a prequel. I really wanted to do a sequel, so we didn't really put anything to paper. And then the Welcome Villain guys, they just formed that company, and Luc LeBeau approached me. He's like, "Listen, I'm a big fan of Last Shift, and what do you think about jumping into that world again?" And I think because Last Shift was more of a cult film,
Mm-hmm.
we wanted to introduce it to a new audience. We wanted to hit a wider audience with this movie. So we felt the best way was to reimagine it. And that's how we coined it, a reimagining, not really a reboot, not really a remake.
Yeah,
We're gonna
reimagining is definitely suits it better. Now,
yeah.
Jessica, you are the main star in Malum as Jessica Lauren, originally played by Juliana Harkavy. I'm sure you must have had a lot of questions for Anthony about how he wanted your Jessica Lauren to be portrayed. So, how
Mm.
did Anthony explain to you the character and how he wanted you to play it out?
Well, the first thing Anthony told me was that this is gonna be all you, so it's a lot of stamina. And then the second thing was he just didn't want me to be distracted by the other performance. So he just said, "Don't watch it." He's like, please don't watch this. I just need you to separately become this person and go on this journey." So it kind of was, it was, I think when we were talking about it, it was more the fact that this is just going to be a lot to do in a short space of time. And, I mean, Anthony, you're very good with like character centric stuff. So it was just going to be keeping the pacing and the journey that she's going through whilst making something, even though it's reimagining and we're going back, it still felt very,
Unique.
guerrilla filmmaking, like in this, uh, why did I forget what a police station was called? In this, I was like, in this
Thing.
police station. Yeah, so I think it was focused more on that. And then I I hadn't acted for a while, so I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this because it just is hard. It was hard. It was hard work, but it was kind of taking it day by day type
Yeah.
of thing.
Now,
So
Anthony, when you saw Jessica, what made you say, you know what? She's the person I want to play this version of Jessica Soren.
I knew the type of actor we were looking for, someone that had a confidence and a assuredness. I think the biggest thing with this movie is that the character of Jessica is on a journey.
Mm-hmm.
She's solving a mystery. She has agency. And I think you never really know until you meet with an actor. I mean, that's how I gauge it. And so when Jesse and I had our first meeting, I felt like we really hit it off right away. And, if we can break the ice within the first 10 to 15 minutes, then I feel like we get to where we need to go on set. And that's a big part of that journey. Like, how are we going to collaborate on set, and how are we going to create this character together? And for me, it's just, I want to make her as comfortable as possible so she can go on that journey and be, her best self on set, and doesn't feel like she's being distracted too often.
Exactly. And you said it great. If you have chemistry within the first 10, 20 minutes of meeting, then you're right. That is going to lead to a good relationship on the set itself. And it ultimately, what happens behind the screens comes through on the screen to what the audience sees. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yes, almost. I think sometimes it was hard because we would get along a little too well. So it was like, guys, you got
focus here. Let's
stop cracking each other up.
Now, you told us that you did not watch The Last Shift before filming, but since now the movie's out, have you watched the original?
No, I haven't. I like looking at this chat that's going on here.
Oh, those are the people chatting. Yeah.
I like that somebody's catching up with someone. That's sweet. I still haven't watched it. I think, can I tell you, I loved filming Malum. It was like really jovial at times, but it was also really hard because I would just watch a lot of sad shit at the same time. So I've kind of put it to rest. I've just like put it here because a lot of like love went into it, but that is, she's under a lot of stress.
Yeah. That's so
when
when you first read the script, Jessica, and you saw the story, what was your initial reaction to your character?
Well, that we talked about that at the beginning because I thought it was very fun. Like it was really like high stakes, kind of kicks off, it was just crazy and like in your face.
Yeah.
And then you're nervous because with the horror world, you just never know what production team you're going to get, you know what I mean? Or director. And a lot of people like to make horror to like just churn it out. And it just kind of means nothing. You just want to see people being
butchered.
Yeah, and butchered,
Yeah.
Which, look, I get it. Everyone likes to escape in that way sometimes. But I think talking to Anthony it made me feel nervous to step up to it, but happy because I think he didn't want to play it where she's just, I thought about it more as a mystery. She's just investigating something, like
absolutely
all she has to do, and whatever external forces are coming, she cannot control that.
No. Now, Anthony, the story involving Jessica's father is altered from the original, and you show us when Malum starts what happens regarding Jessica's father. What made you decide to show the audience those events as opposed to sort of it coming out throughout the story of the film?
I think it's the catalyst for Jesse's character. So I think the audience seeing that at the beginning, because the mystery is why, why did this happen? And that's her journey throughout the movie. So I thought that was important to see what he does at the beginning of the film and to see under what circumstances he does it, so that the audience is in the same shoes as Jessica's character. We have questions like, well, why did that go down? What happened there? I saw it with my own eyes, but I don't know why it happened.
Yeah.
So I think that was the question going in.
Okay.
I wanted everyone to be on the same page as Jessica's character. And essentially what she knew, we knew.
And she was definitely after more information. Now, Jessica, you said it yourself, you really had to carry this whole film. The movie is great because you are great in the movie. How did you manage to stay focused and not get psyched out that this whole film is really revolving around your performance?
Oh, well, I guess Anthony had to talk me off a few ledges a couple of times, I think. I'm certainly, I noticed, I think, I've been, sometimes when you start acting at a young age, it's nice because you get really comfortable, but then you can kind of be, if somebody said hello, so hello. Hi. So, you can kind of go on a little bit of cruise control when it comes to, I guess for me, it felt like that with auditions and everything. I was just like, okay, and I come here and I step here and I do this. But I love a process, and I noticed with this process that um, I it was I like to be comfortable and be able to like have a laugh to go in between, and then I like you want a little bit of nurturing, so I had to be talked off a few ledges. And then I would like I remember chatting to my dad, and he's like, you really can't even think about the overarching, like that is for your director to think about
Hmm.
all of that stuff. When it comes to everything, all you can do is your pieces.
Yeah.
And when we were doing, a lot of the in the office stuff by the phone, that would just be like there was like one day where it was a crazy day of just a lot of phone scenes, a lot of jumping back and forth of in and out of what part, like how stressed is she, what like realm has she gone to and come back to. So when that's happening, it's happening so fast that you have to take it bit by bit.
Yeah.
You forget, you just kind of forget.
It's that whole actor director relationship. Director, they say, there's a famous saying, 80% of directing is casting, and the same goes the other way. Casting, they have to trust their director. Now, as Anthony, as this is a reimagining, uh, did you pull out the last shift script and say, okay, we're going to reimagine this story? What do I want to change? How do I reimagine this story? Was it a difficult thing to do?
It was at first because when they approached Scott and I, and then Scott and I had a conversation about it, you know, because there's that trepidation of like, well, do we want to do this? Do we want to? I didn't want to feel like I was treading the same water. So you're always nervous about, am I going to end up being on set and be like, oh, I've done this before? But I never felt that way. And I think when we sat down to write a treatment, we took out the old script, we watched the movie again, kind of looked at like, well, what was there anything that didn't make it on the screen from the original script? And after that, just one session, I think we just threw everything away. I knew there were certain things I wanted to carry over because for me, I was making for a new audience. So
Yeah.
what were the things that I felt really worked in the first movie? Just those nuggets to bring over into the new movie, but change them up a bit so someone who had seen Last Shift can still be entertained in a new way. But it was a very collaborative process with the Welcome Villain guys because they came in early on and said, hey, we love this movie. And I'm like, okay, so now I'm going to gauge, well, what do they love about Last Shift?
Mm-hmm.
So I let them in very early on in the treatment process where it was like, here's a 6-page treatment, just little things that we knew we wanted to go. And I gauged their reaction to that. And I wasn't yet inspired, right? At 6 pages, I'm like, okay, I'm still finding my way. But then at
Yeah.
12 pages and then at 20 pages, I'm like, there's a certain point where you're like, okay,
You
now
get
I know what
fired
I'm
up.
excited
Yeah.
about. Yeah, you gotta get fired up. You gotta feel like, okay, what's the journey? What's taking me in a new direction?
Now, one
And
thing. Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go on.
No, just to say again, with Jesse and on set, I never felt like I was rehashed. It just felt like a completely different movie to me.
Yeah, and like I told you, I told Anthony before we went live, I just came across this film. I started watching it. I knew Anthony was a director. I've spoken to Anthony before. This is the second time on our show. But it was only, very early on that I realized this is a similar story to a movie he's done before. Now, what's really noticeable in Malum is there's a bigger, I guess, supporting cast. They're not there for long, but we see while Jessica is driving through the streets, there are people, creepy people out with these really creepy smiles looking at her. Was that done intentionally, or did it just happen to work out that way?
We knew we really wanted to open up the movie more in the first act and focus a lot on the cult. It's something we didn't see. Everything was so contained in the first movie. So,
Hmm.
in a lot of ways, treating this as a sequel, if you will, it's like, okay, well, if what didn't people get to see? What were the things we talked about in the first one that people just didn't get to see? Let's put that in this film. Let's open up that world and start to lay in the foundation for that mythology of the cult of the low god and
Yeah.
who they are and how that's gonna how Jess is gonna go in conflict with them quite early on in the movie.
Okay. Now, Jessica, anybody who's seen the poster for Malum, you're the cover drenched in blood. All right. Now, the movie does have its fair share of blood. How was it working with all that makeup on? Did you try to have fun with it? Was it really distracting? Tell us about that.
Oh yeah. So actually it was very exciting when I first heard. I was like, yeah, I want to be covered in blood, like just covered. And talking the prep before it was like just because it's so satisfying. And Anthony was like, "You're gonna be covered in blood," and then he was like, "I don't think you understand the amount of blood we're gonna put on you." And I was like, "Whatever, man. You're just gonna put some blood on me. It's gonna be a lot." But then when it was over me and spilling, a part of me was so excited. But then I kind of had to like put that away because it's such a distressing moment, like just a moment of like, what the hell's happening to me? And then I think it's day 2 when you have to put the blood on again. That's when the blood starts to get a little old. But actually, you guys timed it pretty well because it was like really towards the end, and then oh my god, the cat that I'm watching, she is up in a tree, just so high up right now that I'm looking at.
Get her.
I was like, oh, Esther. Anyway, so yeah, I kind of liked. It's uncomfortable after a bit of time. There was one night I had to shower in that police station, which was disgusting. And it was just so like I would go back to where I was staying, and there were days where I just would say I'm just going to shower at home.
Uh-huh.
So that one day I went home and I was in the elevator with all these like teenage like guys. They seemed like young kids. They were just all just staring at me like, what's happening? Are you okay? So yeah, it kind of was like a little uncomfortable and strange, but it definitely helps you get in
the character.
Yeah, it definitely helps. But that stuff is so gross. It makes you never want to eat anything syrupy ever again.
Yeah, I've spoken to a lot of people who've been drenched in blood. It's amazing the different reactions you get. Now, I want to pose this next question to both of you. I want to start with Anthony. I want to get a director-actor's perspective. There's a transition that goes in the film that goes from the police station to a barn. As a director, Anthony, when you are filming this, is it challenging trying to keep everything like chronological, keep the actor in the moment, so it is one fluent scene when the audience does get to see it? What kind of challenge does that present you?
That was a big challenge for this movie because the narrative jumps around a lot, and not only does the narrative jump around a lot, but we were jumping around a lot in the station because it was a very large police station. It was 4 stories. It was a basement, and we kind of cherry picked where the best parts of the building that we wanted to shoot in. So we're hopping from floor to floor to floor, from scene to scene. And I think it was that challenge of like, okay, Jess, we're in the office right now, and this happens, and then we're in the barn, and your continuation, that's a week later, but we're continuing.
Yeah.
We had so many of those conversations, but it was just me keeping detailed.
I don't know. You're really good at that. I felt like actually it kind of helped me with how I would like to be in the future, just in general. Because Anthony would always have a notebook of the exact moment before the thought before the thoughts
Mhm.
that haven't like crossed her mind.
Yeah, because
I know it sounds like something, yeah, you try and do it as an actor, but when you're filming a lot of like TV and you're rolling with it, sometimes you don't have the time. So
exactly.
he was, I don't know, I feel like that was the most of all the things you were just, that I think that's what saved me, is you so streamlined with it.
That's awesome. Guys, thank you so much. These 20 minutes just flew by. For our audience out there, you got to check out this film, especially if you saw The Last Shift and enjoyed that. This is as good, if not better. I don't really want to compare the two films. They are similar stories, but they are unique stories, different backgrounds. The movie's called Malum. It is now available on every major on demand platform. So whether it's Amazon, Apple TV, wherever you want to go, check it out. It is available. I want to thank our guest, writer director Anthony DiBlasi, and star Jessica Sula of Malum. I want to thank our audience, those of you who are tuning in live, who Jessica thoroughly enjoyed watching your chats tonight.
It's just, I got so distracted because what I'm seeing is so like, I'm just like looking at all the little audio
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Oh, you have ads. Oh,
This program is streamed to 8 different platforms, so it shows all of them. Jessica, Anthony, again, congratulations on the film. Our audience, you got to check it out. Malum. On behalf of Anthony DiBlasi and Jessica Sula and myself, stay safe, stay walking. Good night, everybody.
good night.